Okay, so let's now go into the interpretation, the why questions. And I have a very difficult question for you. I have answered this before because if you have been following me from Exodus chapter 3 onwards, we've been explaining this. But now I want to ask this very difficult question, especially for those of you who have not joined us before. You look at verses 4 and 8. God says in verse 4, "And I will harden Pharaoh's heart." And verse 8, "The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt." So the question, which is a very hard question, very, very difficult question, why did God harden Pharaoh's heart? Why did God harden Pharaoh's heart? And some people might think, it's not fair to Pharaoh. You made him like this. So his choice is not his choice. You were not fair to him. He might have been willing to say, "Oh, let the Israelites go." But God hardened his heart, so he won't let the Israelites go. Not fair. Why did God harden Pharaoh's heart?
Because it was Pharaoh who hardened his heart first.
Because it was Pharaoh who hardened his heart first. How do you know that?
Because it was in the previous
In the previous studies. Okay, we leave that for the moment, yeah? Why did God harden Pharaoh's heart? Any other answer?
to show glory, to show his glory.
To show his glory. And what verse is that?
4.
Verse 4. God says, "I will show my glory." So what does that mean? What does God mean when I will harden Pharaoh's heart because I want to show my glory?
To show his glory.
He wanted to create miracles for what purpose?
To show his glory.
To show the Israelites? Maybe not. Actually, in verse 4, "And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them, but I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord." So the Israelites will know, but the Egyptians will know too. So the purpose of God was he wanted to let this happen so that he has the opportunity to teach the Israelites and the Egyptians about himself, his power and his justice. Okay, don't forget that Pharaoh had imprisoned Israel for 430 years as slaves. And so God's justice now says, you will be punished for enslaving the people of Israel. So there is an element of punishment there, an element of God showing his justice and his power, and an element of what Lenny just said. Pharaoh hardened his own heart. Let me convince you. Okay? So when the Hebrew people say God hardened Pharaoh's heart, they actually have this philosophy and this attitude in life. Everything ultimately is in the control of God. So even human action is ultimately, in their eyes, something you can credit to God. But there is no running away from the fact that even though the verse here says God hardened Pharaoh's heart, it was Pharaoh himself who hardened his own heart. Okay, we go back to chapter 3, verse 19. "But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand compels him." There is nothing here about God hardening Pharaoh's heart. He says, "I know." This is God knows everything. He knows that Pharaoh will not let the people go until Pharaoh sees some miracles. My mighty hand, God's power. So, "I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand compels him." So Moses, you're scared to go and deliver the Jews, the Israelites. Yeah, I understand, because Pharaoh is not going to let them go. But I am sending you. I will make it possible, God tells Moses. And then the whole of chapter 5, we hear the story of First of all, Moses and Aaron goes and tell the Pharaoh, please let my people go. Verse 1, yeah? Let my people go. But the rest of chapter 5, Pharaoh makes it harder and harder and harder for the Israelites. And so then we move on. Fast forward, chapter 7, verse 22. After many miracles, what does Pharaoh do? The Egyptian magicians did the same things by their secret hearts, and verse 22, Pharaoh's heart became hard. He would not listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord had said. God told you so. God told Moses and Aaron that Pharaoh will not listen. Why? In this case, because his own magicians, the Egyptian magicians, could do the same thing. So he says, ha 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 ha. I don't think you're so great. Alright, so okay, just the beginning. Chapter 8, verse 15. Even more miracles have taken place, and now we are told Pharaoh saw that there was relief. That means Moses had taken away the plague, and so there was relief. He hardened his heart and would not listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord had said. So God said so. God didn't make Pharaoh's heart harden. It was Pharaoh who was slowly hardening his heart, little by little by a little. Okay? And then, chapter 8, verse 19. The magicians said to Pharaoh, okay, after the plague of the gnats, the magicians could not copy. They said to Pharaoh, oh, you know this one? This is the finger of God. So they were beginning to acknowledge, okay, we can't do this, it is God. But Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he would not listen, just as the Lord had said. Okay, so all so far, who is the main character? Pharaoh. God is not there. God is just saying, I told you so, I told you so, I said so, this is what's going to happen, I predicted it. And then chapter 9, verse 7. Again, it says here, Pharaoh sent men to investigate because he had discovered that he was told that the Israelites were not suffering and only the Egyptians. So he sent men to investigate and found that not even one of the animals of the Israelites had died. And what happens? What was the result of his observation?
His heart was unyielding.
His heart was unyielding. He refused to surrender. Nothing to do with God. It was Pharaoh himself all alone, hardening and unyielding. And then, chapter 9, verse 12. But the Lord hardens Pharaoh's heart, finally. So Pharaoh has been hardening his own heart all along, and finally in chapter 9, verse 12, God says, well, you want to be hardened, I might as well let you be hardened. God permitted Pharaoh to continue in his hardened ways, his stubborn ways, because now Pharaoh has been given so many chances to change and he didn't change. So God says, I will allow you to carry your own way, your stubborn way, and now it will be a punishment. So God turned his Pharaoh's hardening heart into punishment, you might say, because the hardened heart was rebellion. The stubborn heart was rebellion against God, and God left it to be hardened. God did not see any need to soften it anymore. So there is no injustice in this. God gave so many chances to Pharaoh to soften his heart, but he kept hardening and hardening and hardening until finally God says, okay, I leave you to your own. You want your own choice, I'll let you have your own choice. So in the Hebrew language, from the Hebrew mindset, that means God allowed Pharaoh's heart to continue to be hardened. So this was so that he would be able to show his power, that he is in control of everything, including Pharaoh's heart, and so that, the second part, Egypt will know him. God has always been a God who loves all people that he created, not just the Israelites. In this case, even as he's delivering the Israelites from Egypt, he wants the Egyptians to know him. And if they really truly know him, they would not have suffered so much. It was their rebellion that caused them to suffer. So if they had relented, they had repented, they had seen the pillar of cloud and said, oh, that's God, let's turn back, they would not have drowned. Pharaoh would not have drowned.
Can we ask some questions or no?
Sure.
Well, that was going to be my question. Because by the time, once the Pharaoh saw the waters being split and he saw the pillar of cloud, he could have just said, oh, that's God. And like you said, he could have repented.
He could have repented and turned around.
That was going to be my question.
Well, you said that God was like talking to him. Was he physically there or?
God talking to Pharaoh?
Yeah.
God talked to Pharaoh through Moses.
Oh, okay. So Moses. Okay.
So God, remember all the passages so far? God told Moses, go and tell Pharaoh this. And then he goes and tells Pharaoh the same thing that God told him. So Pharaoh was listening to God indirectly through Moses. Chapter 14, verse 11. What did Israel say and why?
What is it because there was no graves in Egypt they brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Then we say in Egypt, leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians. It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert.
It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians. Really? 400 years of slavery, and Pharaoh is making it harder and harder for you, and it's better to be a slave than to die in the desert? Well, I suppose many people, when they see death, better than dying, yeah? At least you're alive, right? You're suffering, but you're alive. Okay. Good choice. Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? You mean there are no graves in Egypt, but that's what we call, what is that? Sarcasm. So you think there are no coffins in Egypt? You've got to bring us out here in the desert to look for stones to be our coffin? Stone coffins? This is sarcasm, and sarcasm usually comes because people are critical and they don't believe. So they are getting sarcastic to Moses. And there's a sarcasm from fear. They are frightened. They're frightened of dying right in the desert. They would rather die in slavery in Egypt. Later on, you've seen Exodus, they say, why did you bring us out into the desert and we have nothing to eat? We remember garlic and leek and all the nice things we ate in Egypt. Oh yeah? So sometimes, people, they look at the good old days. They forget the good old days had trouble.
Do you think they might have thought God tricked them into going out here, and he's
probably
fed up with he's probably fed up with the whole situation too. He might as well just get it over with, right?
Yeah, they could have been thinking, okay, God or Moses tricked us into coming out here.
Or stupidity.
Yeah.
Why did you bring us this way? This is
and
dumb.
God, a stupid God you are. So you can turn it back and say, God, you're a stupid God.
Because for them, they cannot see the future.
They cannot see the future.
The future is only death.
So they only can see in front of their noses.
It's death.
And what is in front of their noses stink. So they say this is a stinky situation. They don't see beyond. And they cannot see beyond, obviously. And at this stage, probably they don't trust God that much. At all. Yeah? There's no faith. There's no faith in God. So what did Israel say? They said some really nasty things, sarcasm. And it's a fear, sarcasm from fear. And the fear is from the distrust or disbelief in God, right? Or if not God, at least disbelief in Moses. Moses, are you sure you heard from God? Did you dream it maybe? Did you have an hallucination? Maybe you smoked something, did you?
Yeah.
Out there in the desert, you smoked something and then now you tell us to follow you? So they were actually quite upset. And as Claudia says, quite understandable. They were very upset. Now they see 600 chariots, the best chariots of Egypt, and they have nothing. They are basically not soldiers at all. They are people without weapons. The only weapon they have maybe would be the knives they used to kill the chicken. They were panicked. I think you were panicked, I would panic. So they panicked because they could not see no future. Exactly. They could not see any future. So it's very often the reality in our lives. What is in front of us scares us crazy. And we don't see any protection or anybody protecting us, we panic. And what is God's answer? 13. Okay, stand firm. Do not be afraid, stand firm. And what else did God say?
The Lord will fight for you.
The Lord will fight for you, verse 14. You need only to be
Still.
still. Oh, no. I got to do something. You want me to stand still and die? Do nothing? You're crazy. At least I can run. I go hide myself in the rock or something in the bushes. What? Stand still?
It goes against the principle of fight and flee, huh?
Yeah, it goes against all principles of human common sense. I see the enemy, I can't fight him, I run. Not stand still. Wave a white flag, yeah. Surrender. Yeah, I'm coming back. Hey Egypt, here I come. I'm coming for your wonderful stones and rocks and slavery.
Negotiate.
I'll go around with me.
Story of life, yeah? Our lives, isn't it? God says, be still, and we run. Third question. The sea, we're told, withdrew. And then it came back. What do you think this is? Is this a natural event? Maybe? Because if you see verse 21, then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. Natural event, very strong wind, perhaps a little bit of some scholars, they say maybe there was a tsunami of a sort, because when a tsunami comes, the water withdraws. And that's what one of the signs of a tsunami coming in is if you're standing by the seaside, suddenly the water withdraws out to sea, and there's a big stretch of dry land. Don't think the sea is retreating, because when it comes back, it's boom! And that's what we saw on the videos in Phuket, the Asian tsunami, 2004. The water goes out very far, and then when it comes back, boom, 30 meters. So some scholars say, hey, maybe that was what happened here in the Red Sea.
We should read what the text says.
See, I think there are two schools of thought amongst Christians. One is they absolutely deny that it's a natural event, because to them, if you say it's a natural event, then it wasn't a miracle. And this clearly was a miracle. Moses believes it's a miracle, and the Bible portrays it as a miracle of God. It was something God did, His mighty hand, His power. So there are Christians who absolutely refuse to acknowledge that this could be a natural event. There are other Christians who say, well, they call themselves Christians, but they say absolutely nothing, even all the plagues were all natural events. It just happened that around this time. Maybe the Egyptians were ignorant and doesn't...
Major coincidence.
Yeah. So, major coincidence. Like I said when I was sharing about my life, when I prayed to God, I said, God, prove yourself to me. I had things happen one after another, and I kept saying, this is coincidence, this is coincidence. And I came to a point when finally I had to acknowledge, no, too many coincidences. It has to be from God trying to prove Himself to me, as I challenge Him to do. So I think that there comes a point after 1 plague, 2 plagues, 3 plagues, 10 plagues, and then one more miracle. Surely somewhere along the way Moses would have conveyed the idea to Pharaoh, my God really is a real God. Right? So even if it's a miracle, even if it's a natural event, somewhere in the middle is a third school. Okay? One school that says, no, absolutely miracle cannot be a miracle, a natural event. One school says, just a natural event, it just so happens. So maybe God is great, but it just so happened. But there's a middle position, and the middle position is this. God obviously is in control of all the forces of nature. And even if there are natural forces of nature, he doesn't violate them, doesn't need to violate them. The timing itself is a miracle. The coincidence, as we say, after so many coincidences, it may all have been natural events, but when Moses says tomorrow, it happens tomorrow. When Moses says now, the sea divides now, and then divides long enough for 1 million people to cross over. Hey, if that's not a miracle, it was God using a natural event to make it possible. So it is still a miracle. The miracle is in the timing. Just because it's a natural event doesn't mean that it's not a miracle. It is a miracle. And God doesn't always have to violate the rules of science and nature. He can and He will. I don't deny that, but sometimes He can use natural events, but the timing is such that the miracle is in the timing, not so much in the events superseding logic and science.
Because Moses could have raised his staff, then it could have happened 2 hours later.
Yeah,
It
he
happened
could have.
exactly when he
Yeah,
raised
he
his
could
staff.
have. If this was a natural wind that he knows will come, then he can raise it and not happening.
Just come back in a couple hours.
Sorry, I come back. Let's take a break. Coffee break.
Hold on, it's coming, it's coming.
Oh, it's coming. Yeah, it's coming. Oh, okay, let's take a break. The timing itself is a miracle. Okay?
Yeah.
The timing itself is a miracle because the moment he lifts it up, water separates.
So Moses had to lift up the staff for very, very long hours.
So part of his obedience was to hold it up, and later on when he realized that he's not strong enough,
Yeah.
so
Somebody took it. Yeah.
some people help him. Yeah,
Otherwise.
Aaron and all.
People are
They can
drowning.
help him
I'm
hold up
tired.
his arms.
But
Yeah.
if it
Hey, you guys, hurry up! My hands are sore.
And I think if it is natural, why it happened only once.
Yeah.
Did it happen
And
before or
it
after?
probably, like Raymond says, if it had happened before, the Egyptians would have known. But it doesn't seem to be recorded anywhere that the Egyptians knew about it. So even if it's a one-off event, and I sometimes I kind of like when people don't believe. I had actually somebody who said to me, I don't believe in magic, meaning I don't believe in miracles and all that. And I said, well, the miracles in the Bible do not have to be magic. Magic is an illusion. You see, for example, Jesus walking in water. It doesn't have to violate the rules of nature. I come to Canada, every year I walk on water. In winter, I walk on water. It's just, it is a natural event. But Jesus being God, He could speed up that particular event, or maybe just the path that He's walking, He speeds it up so the water hardens and He can walk on it. Doesn't make it any less a miracle. He doesn't have to violate the rules of nature. When Jesus turned the water into wine, again I said, if you don't believe in magic, you don't have to. Because in Ontario, I live in Ontario where water turns into wine every year. It just takes a bit of time, that's all. Yeah, the grapes grow, and then you step on them, and then they ferment it, and it takes maybe 6 months before the water turns into wine. Well, water turns into wine.
Oh, we have ice wine too.
And ice wine too, yeah? So,
We walked on it
We
first.
walked on ice.
you don't have to believe in magic. You don't have to believe in magic. God can use all the natural events, but it's the timing that shows that He is in control. It's just like, as we say, Moses lifts up the staff and the water stops. Puts it down and the water comes back. Yeah? The timing.